Hey all, Aaron here again from UAVISUALS, and yes, you've guessed it, this video is all about long exposure or night photography using a drone. I'm going to take you through my process from camera settings to shooting, and then at the end, post-processing. Before I begin, an important disclaimer, and that is make sure you check with your country's local drone laws. In Australia, it's actually illegal to fly after last light. Last light's about 30 minutes after the sun hits the deck, unless you're operating under a license that has a procedure for this. So do your research and stay out of jail, kids. Let's take it right back to the basics. Now, usually night photography involves you using a tripod because your camera needs to be as steady as a rock, to the point where you're not even touching the camera. You can use different accessories. Some people use remote triggers. You can count down your shutter. Some even use sandbags on a tripod to absorb all the little tiny vibrations. It's absolutely nuts. And here we are, crazy people trying to emulate this, but in the air. Bonkers, I know. But once again, technology has come such a long way. I think we're getting very, very close. Okay, camera settings, let's do this. RAW DNG files only, please. No JPEGs in the air, especially at night. You need to get the most information out of your image. The next one is mechanical shutter. Turn this off. Mechanical shutter, when you turn this off, it'll eliminate the tiny vibrations after the shutter goes off. You also want to lock your gimbal. Locking your gimbal basically eliminates the slow movement of your gimbal when you move your drone in the air. Next one, turn your front LEDs off. This will stop the red lights from coming into the camera and messing up your shot. The last one is tripod mode. Turn the tripod mode on and it will keep your drone super, super steady in the air, like it's on a tripod. All right, let's talk about focusing, because this is a really difficult thing to do at night from a drone, especially. If your drone has the capabilities of manually focusing, I recommend you do it. Turn manual focus assistant on, then begin rack focusing until you see the lights in the building become super crisp and sharp. Once it's sharp, it's in focus, take your hand off, it's ready to go. All right, so with ISO, if you have a Mavic Pro, keep it at 100. Try not to go over 200, as low light isn't the best on the Mavics due to its really small sensor. If you've got a Phantom 4 Pro or an Inspire, you can go up to 400, maybe even 600, but don't go over that, or you'll get more noise than a heavy metal concert, and that's not a good thing. Noise is basically your camera filling in the information that it's missing because the shot is too dark. You will see in the darker parts of your shots, the really grainy kind of look. That is not a good thing. F-stop, you need this to be at its widest. So the lower the number, the better. This will let the most light into your sensor. Mavic Airs and Mavic Pros are fixed. You can't do anything about it. Phantom 4 Pros and the Inspires, you can drop that down to as low as possible, depending on the lens or the camera. Okay, so shutter, this is your variable. The more you adjust this up and down, the different kind of effects and looks you will get from an image. But as a rule, the slower the shutter, the brighter the image will be. And if there's movement in the shot, like cars or waves, then this will become that really nice, sexy blurriness going on, while everything else like buildings and so on will be stationary, which will look really cool. But remember, the slightest little movement will make your whole image unusable. First, I like to start at about 1/5 of a second, then I move it up to 1 second, 4 seconds, and then a really long exposure at 8 seconds, just to see the different types of shots and looks you get from changing your shutter speed. So car streaks, if you want this effect, you need to adjust your shutter to around 4 to 8 seconds. If the image gets too bright, you can always increase the f-stop, or you can lower the ISO so your image becomes a little bit darker. So with twilight or property shots, go with around 1/5 of a second, then drop it to 2 seconds and maybe even 4 seconds. I recommend shooting around about 30 minutes after the sun has hit the deck. The reason for that is there's still a little bit of color and light in the sky, but the street lights and the building lights and car lights will be on by then. So you'll get some really nice colors in your shot, which will look awesome. Now for city night shots, for me, I like to shoot anywhere from 2 to 4 seconds. And this is usually well after the last light. So when you've got black skies and all the lights in the buildings and streets and ovals are all nice and lit up. Now, once you've got the shots that you want and you're happy with it, then it's time to add some magic to the studio. So now we have the image opened in Lightroom. I'm going to whiz through this really quickly, but I will upload a separate video of the full editing process because that goes for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, step one. First we need to crop and resize to fit. Then you go into your basic exposure and brightness. Let's lift the shadows up a bit. Make sure that histogram is kind of in the middle somewhat. Scrolling down on the right, increase the clarity a bit. This will bring out the lights. Increase the dehaze. Crank the dehaze a little bit. This will get rid of all the crap in the air. Add a bit of vibrance. Okay, looking good. We want to add a layer, a masking layer for just the bits that we want sharpened. So you hit Option and then scroll the masking dial to the right until the sky and the sea goes black. So everything there in the white is what's going to be sharpened, sorry. So we can go in here, add a bit of sharpening. Yes, there's a lot of noise, but we'll get rid of that in a minute. Just want to make this pop a little bit more as much as we can. The shot was a little bit out of focus. I think there's a bit of camera movement, camera shake when I took this originally. Now we're going to go noise reduction, increase that a bit. You'll still see in some of the areas here, there's a bit of blotches of green and blue around here, but we can adjust the color and that will disappear. So first thing, I like to add a filter here, a graduated filter, bring that down to here, and I'm going to drop the exposure down a tad. By dropping the exposure down, you can see the lights on the city kind of come to life a bit, and it gets a bit sharper, so it's what we want. Once I do that, I'm going to add another filter from the bottom up this time, and I'm going to bring the sea and the pier to life by increasing the brightness. Maybe a bit of clarity there. When you adjust the clarity on the water, the lights and the reflections come to life as well. Add a bit of saturation, bit of dehazing, and that looks good. Now you can see the whole overall image looks really blue and cold, but we can adjust that with the temperature up here, the white balance temperature. Add another graduated filter over the top of the whole thing. Bring it down like that. And down here we've got color. Select one of these guys. So blue is going to be, it'll look very blue, but I'm going to go down here to a warmer tone. Now I'm going to start coloring and adding some colors. So the kind of look that I want to go for on this will be a orange teal kind of scenario. So go down to HSL color, select hue, and I'm going to drop the orange down. So the yellows and the oranges, I'm going to make it orangey, not too much. And the blue, I'm going to slide it down to the teal area. There we go. Now it's coming to life a little bit more. I might add a little bit of vignetting as well over the top here. And the final touches is the brush. So I'm going to add the brush here, custom. I'm going to increase the exposure. So I'm going to brighten up this pier so it stands out a bit more, and you're focused on it when you first look at the image. Okay, I hit a new layer, and I'm going to brighten up the properties on the bank here so it's nice and bright. Another new, but this time I'm going to drop the exposure and I'm going to darken up just the city parts here. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the editing process. Still play around a bit more with netting, and I think I'm happy with that for the moment. Not bad for a 2-minute edit. Let's look at before, after, and then you're good to go. There you have it. I hope it's helped. Don't forget to hit the sub button. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Commissioner.